Actually, you know those cold opens? I really like when you used to do those things. And then the intro rolls.
When did we do that? I don't even remember when we did that.
I've heard them a couple times. We're just like, ha 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 ha. Oh my God, yeah, what? I didn't know you could do this.
What?
Wait, you didn't ever did that? Or did I imagine that?
We never did that.
Really?
We never have done that.
Have you always started with just the...
Yeah. You were saying it'd be cool to do a cold open, but we never did a cold open.
Maybe we should try that someday. Welcome to Scary Mystery Surprise,
where we talk about scary things that surprised us around the internet.
I'm Edwin.
I'm Michelle.
All right, Michelle. So if I were to ask you, what is the most common mystery out there in the world that we always hear about?
Ooh, I would say the most common mystery, I would go Amelia Earhart.
For me, it's Bigfoot, the Mothman, little creatures, cryptids. So there's this incident that has been requested 1,000 times. This thing is everywhere, right? Like a quick search is going to lead you to like 423 podcasts and 78,000 Google searches. And these are just rough estimates, but
that's a lot.
It's insane. It's insane. And that's because the actual incident was really freaky. I have the best version of this tale retold 1,000 times right here. Mainly because I am going to ruin it.
A tale as old as time. And you're going to ruin it for us?
I am going to ruin it. When I read it, I was like, no, this was such a cool story. Just like that other story that you ruined with Winchester. But there's a reason why. This is a theory that I have. The Winchester Mystery House idea that you ruined. It was like, why didn't I want to go? I didn't want to visit that place. I really didn't. And this, behind the scenes and for real, doing this case was just like, no. By the way, guys, I just completely failed at an episode because I was trying to avoid this one. I really didn't want to do it.
Coming clean from behind the scenes.
Because it was just retold and retold, and every other podcast that has similar themes to us has done this. I have done this on another podcast. It's everywhere. It's interesting. It's just been told so much that we're like, it's too mainstream. But I found a way to mess it up. It's because we actually have some ideas of what actually happened.
Ooh, this is exciting. And you haven't even told us what it is yet. So tell me what it is.
All right. Well, I'll tell you. So without spoiling anything, I'll tell you that this is a mystery about people who went out into the mountains and died.
Ooh, my favorite kind of story.
People go into the mountains and die all the time. So it's
true. As being from the Northwest, I can vouch for that.
Yeah, it happens, right? And it's accidents. Running out of water, out of food, bear attacks, extreme temperature.
I would say it's probably extreme temperature more than bear attacks.
Bigfoot.
Cougar attacks. Wolf attack.
Eating poisoned something.
Berries. Whatever. Bad water. Shit yourself to death.
That happens. I can vouch. Yeah.
Okay.
Just kidding. But this one is different. Okay, so if you're ready, we're going to begin. His name was Igor Dyatlov. And he loved playing around with things, right? This is his story, basically. He liked inventing things, fixing stuff, and he loved the wilderness. Wide smile, Russian. So he was overall Michelle's perfect man.
Ooh, are you writing my Tinder profile?
Yep. He studied engineering, built his own equipment.
Ooh.
In 1958, he was like, hey, I want to go on a winter expedition. So let's go. So he was going to do a cross-country ski trip in the mountain range that runs north-south between Europe and Asia. It's called the Urals, or Urals. It's Urals. This is important because no Russian, or I guess, I don't know if it was another country, but it has a confusing name. So in my ignorance here, I'm just going to say Russian because that's what I wrote. But there might be USSRians.
I think you could say the Soviet Union.
The Soviets.
Yeah, Soviets. You could go Soviets on there.
So none of them from that country or that federation or area had gone that far before. By the way, Michelle, these mountains aren't all spiky and like cool looking like the one at Disneyland or whatever. These are like rounded Super Mario Brothers mountains. So what made these dangerous was actually the temperature, right? So the temperatures of these, they could be extreme. Obviously, mountains, you're high up, high winds, snow, all these things, right? So you could freeze to death. He submitted, Igor, right, submitted this idea to the Association of Crazies who like doing that kind of thing. It was called the UPI Sports Club. There's a club for everything, dude. There's a club for everything.
There is. It's, if it were in England, you could hear them going, oh, yes, of course. Oh, cheerio. Yes, we'll spend millions climbing a mountain. Oh. But it's in Russia, and I don't know if I can do a Russian accent.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you can, Michelle. You're pretty good at this stuff. I'm not even going to try, though, with accents. They always come out Mexican, whatever. One time I was telling somebody that like Sweeney Todd, I didn't like how it was a musical. I thought it would have been better without the musical part. And it was a big argument and people didn't like me for it. But I tried to do that accent of Mr. Todd, Mr. Todd.
Oh, it doesn't. Wow.
So,
yes, it did. You went incredibly Mexican.
So I haven't tried accents since. I'm not even going to try. Just don't do it anymore. Anyway. So he got his group. He got a group of, I think it was 10 friends. And they were ready to take on an awesome winter adventure.
I keep trying to find an example of a Russian accent. I can't get it in my brain. I can't get... Wow. The one accent I can't do is Russian.
Wow. Made history.
Oh, wait.
Anyway,
no, I got
you
one.
got it?
I got one.
Okay.
I got one. It's like birthing a newborn baby here. It's me trying out a new accent. Okay.
Push.
Rocky. Nope. Rocky and Squirrel. Squirrel. That's it. The squirrel part. Bullwinkle and Squirrel. Okay. So it's like Natasha from Bullwinkle. So that's...
There you go.
Okay. And so we are going to climb this mountain.
That's what they said.
We're going to climb this mountain. Who's with me?
And then 10 friends were like, me. Well, actually 9 more. They were super excited for it. This was like the trip, kind of like a Euro trip or like a going to Vegas when you're just like your first trip out of high school or whatever. You want to go. And they were excited. So they were walking around, taking buses, trains, like to try to get to where they're going to start from, right? From some of the articles that I read, by the way, a lot of this is based on an article that I found on the New Yorker and another one from National Geographic.com. And they said, one of them mentioned, I think it was a New Yorker one, mentioned that they would hide under the seats of the train. They were just having fun. They were just trying to like mess around. Like some of them, like they got in trouble for asking for money, like panhandling. Up trying to play music in the bus station or train station. They were just having fun. Plus, they had cameras. And in the pictures, they actually look happy. What was supposed to happen is that they were going to start their expedition. Part of their plan was to arrive at this village called Vizhai. It's Vizhai. And that's when they were supposed to arrive on February 12th. And they were supposed to telegram the club to let them know that they were fine. But sadly, that was not the case. Yeah. People were freaking out by this time. You know, there was a snowstorm. Maybe they just decided to stay a little bit longer in some other area. Typical, right? Because you don't know. You don't have phones. You don't have GPS phones. Like it's a whole different world back then. You're actually going with compasses. And
right.
Is it compasses or compi?
I think it's compasses. Don't quote me on that. If it's compi. I don't know if it's... I've never heard compi.
Compises? You know, they're getting there. They're supposed to telegram people that, hey, we're okay, but again, never came. And people were getting scared about it. They were trying to figure out what had happened because there had been a documented storm. There were volunteers from the sports club. There were also authorities, people from there. And on February 25th, volunteers actually from the sports club that were helping search, they actually found something. They were tracks
Oh.
from skis, aka ski tracks.
Oh,
The next day, they found their tents on a remote mountain, also known as Dead Mountain. By the way, it had other names to it too, but Dead Mountain stood out to me. The tents were completely empty, but the creepy part is that the tent was partially collapsed, snow on top of it, and had to be dug out, but everything inside was neatly organized. So imagine that, right? So you go into a tent, and you see food there on the stove about to get eaten. Everything was neatly organized, right? The boots, the clothes were ready to be worn, but there's nobody there. So the people that found the tent, they started searching around for clues, and they found footprints of a group of people that had been walking. The next day, they found bodies near a cedar tree. And as the snow thawed over the span of a couple of months, several months, they started finding more bodies, all 9 of them. By the way, one of them had a medical condition that flared up before the incident and turned back on January 28th. So that's why there were 10 and then there were 9.
ooh, so they survived, right?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know there was a survivor. That's cool.
Yeah, I was like, what kind of medical thing saved your life, man? And then I found it. Let me pull up the article. It says his name was Yuri Yudin, and he had a flare-up of sciatica that forced him to pull out of the trip.
Oh, shit. If you're skiing and you're having sciatica, oh my God. Ugh.
What's sciatica?
Your sciatic nerve, it's in your hip. So it's like kind of like your butt cheek.
Oh, I've gotten that butt cheek pain when I'm biking.
Fuck. If that acted up while you were having to ski, oh my God. Oh, yeah, you'd want to go home immediately.
Anyway, these bodies that they found were found in bizarre conditions. Not just frozen in place like at Mount Everest, where it looks like they'll be preserved forever. In this case, some of them were not wearing all of their clothes. Some had their skulls smashed, like completely just crushed. Others had their chests burst open, like just crushed.
Jeez.
Others had missing eyes, and one of them was missing their tongue.
That's so freaky. That's so freaky.
You know, I actually saw a tongue for the first time in a jar. The tongue is huge.
Wait, was this at the doctor's office?
No. No.
This is like jar?
This is
a
like
real
at
doctor, Edwin.
No, this is at one of those shops that had like weird things. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a human tongue or was it
Supposedly, yeah. Supposedly.
Interesting.
It's pretty nasty, pretty gross. It looked like a giant slug. Or it's like a monster, like a...
Yeah, think about that being missing from a body. That's a really random part of a body to be missing. Suspicious. Some suspicious stuff went on.
So what would you do, like, to try to figure this out? You're back in 1958 or 1959?
I'd probably think my first assumption would be foul play because of the damage to the tents and like the way they're all scattered all over. I think that would be my first.
Yeah, I think me too.
Assumption and the damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, the damage to the bodies.
Okay, so if I were to find that, I would also think foul play. I would think that they killed each other. That's what I would assume, just because.
Yeah, someone went a little nuts. Like maybe there was like a...
Just the ultimate snowball fight. So they call the experts, and you know, those people who can see a dead person and be like, yep, this person died of being choked, or this guy had too much fun.
The medical examiner?
Yes, them. The proper way to, to call them.
That guy died of having too much fun.
So the criminal investigators came up with a very unusual cause of death. Their deaths were from, quote, an unknown natural force.
Fuck, that's a confusing thing to put on a death certificate.
Yeah, and then they did it in the most Soviet way possible. They're just like, let's not talk about it anymore, and then that's it. So, you know what we get when we don't say the truth, or when people hold back something from going out into the media?
Well, we get a lot of conspiracies, don't we?
Conspiracies. That's what we get.
Da, 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 da.
Yep. And this is how we end up with things like how Mark Zuckerberg being an actual lizard and not just someone who happens to resemble a lizard.
If you told me he was a lizard tomorrow, it wouldn't be like the biggest stretch because he does look like a lizard. Or if he was in an accident and revealed to just be robot parts.
Oh, man. Nowadays, we don't know. What if he ends up like in a hospital and the doctor's, yeah, I treated him. He's actually circuitry.
Well, I mean, he does look like Data from Star Trek, The Next Generation.
I guess, yeah.
So it's not exactly the biggest stretch. Those blank dead eyes just staring off into space.
There was a lot of these conspiracies, by the way. It's probably still popping up now that we actually might have real reason why. But they said that this tragedy was a military test. This was a theory. Another one, which is one that I like, is that it was a Yeti that had attacked them out in the snow. I get it. A Yeti thrives in the snow and can manage going through storms and stuff. Yeah, it might be a mean creature, but it's also very careful when it comes to being discovered. If a Yeti was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to kill these people just for fun, it wouldn't do something that obvious. Slash a tent out in the snow, smash a skull.
He'd make those bodies disappear.
Yeah. Put them up in the trees, let them dry up, in the sun or something so that you don't know that this is a Yeti. So that's why exactly why it's not. This is why I'm going fully against that. So the case about the Dyatlov Pass was reviewed thanks to all these conspiracy theories out there. And they actually did a supposedly thorough review that ended in 2019. And today I have some results. It said that it was caused by an avalanche.
How does an avalanche rip your tongue out?
That's the thing. And by the way, people get really passionate about this stuff, Michelle, just like with everything, right? They get really passionate.
Yeah, of course.
So it started an argument in the scientific community.
Just like Zuck being a lizard.
Some can literally see his tail and they'll be like, he's a lizard. And then somebody else will be like, actually, that's part of an extended spine something. They would argue about it.
Yeah, it's a new biohacking treatment where they extend your spine with a green lizard-like crocodile tail.
That reminds me, there was this case recently in Mexico. There was a little girl born with a tail.
Huh. What kind of tail? Like a little pigtail or like a little was it curly?
It looked like a pigtail. I saw a photograph when it was already severed, like it was already chopped off. But when I first heard it, the person that told me, they were like, yeah, did you hear that in Mexico a little girl was born with a tail 6 meters long? And the whole time I was trying to imagine, how does that happen? 6 meters? That's 6 yards almost, or sort of, for us in the U.S.
Was that wrong? Was it not 6 meters long?
No, it was 6 centimeters.
Oh, got it. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I'm just as confused as you are, because that's longer than a little girl could be. That's
when we first heard it, we were around the dinner table, and we're like, everybody was just lost, 6 meters.
God, one time I was at a bar and there was a woman there who had this. She was like, I was born with a tail, and she proceeded to show us the scar.
What?
It was right above her butt crack, and she showed everybody that there was a scar there. And I don't know if she'd really had a tail or why she just wanted to show everybody her butt crack or what was going on.
She was flirting.
Maybe she was flirting. I don't know, but it was definitely a thing. And maybe it's more common than we think, people being born with tails.
Yeah, I don't think people that were born with tails will always want to share that with anybody.
Yeah, I want to keep it private. Yeah, understandably, unless you're drunk at a bar and you need to flirt with a bunch of people, I guess. Yeah. You just show them your tail stub.
When I first read this about the avalanche, Michelle, I was disappointed. I was like, wow, an avalanche, really? But then I started seeing the arguments and I got excited about it because I was like, yeah, there's no way. First off, right? Remember these mountains? Yeah, they're rounded off, but also the incline where they were found was not that steep.
Oh, well, this isn't even a good convincing lie that the government's trying to tell.
What the actual report said, that an avalanche, for people who don't know, obviously, it's snow landing on top of you. And people die because they can't breathe.
It'll crush you.
Oh, I guess, yeah, because it's pretty heavy. In that area, though, like I said, the angle wasn't that steep. Anyway, This one guy, who's a little hero of mine now, his name is Alexander Puzrin. He's a geotechnical engineer. He wrote a paper about it. He was analyzing the snowfall from the records, the weight of the snow, how it was simply not possible for the timing to be right. So the angle wasn't right for the avalanche. There was a lot of things. The timing was off. There were just things that weren't possible. So scientists obviously started to argue. Snow mass, numbers, weights, simulations. Like, they went all out.
Well, I love it when a random case makes people this mad. And, what happened? And they have to do like scientific studies. And
you're going to love this then, Michelle. This is what they did. So according to this National Geographic article, one of the scientists was one of the people that are analyzing. They're watching Frozen.
The movie Frozen? Like the
movie.
Let it go, let it go.
Da, na, 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 na. That's the only part I know.
Sounds right.
He was watching that, you're just singing along, whatever. And then this snow looks interesting. This is very realistic. Right? People that are nerdy like that, they do that.
This CGI snow looks really realistic.
Because, like, for me, when I see someone on stage and I see their microphone, I'm like, that's an SM58 or whatever. It's like a thing, right? So for him, he was like, this looks so realistic. So he actually contacted the animators from Frozen to find out how they got it to look so real. By the way, they were working on simulations for how this might have happened of this accident. So they combined this with another really cool experiment that was done by General Motors when they were testing their safety ratings. They took 100 cadavers and they broke the ribs to see what would happen during a car crash. So, like, they would just put them in a car, crash the car.
Oh, fuck. How did they get it? I mean, I get that people, like, donate their body to science, but did people donate their body to safety checks?
Yeah, that's actually what happens. By the way, there was this case where, like, somebody was really mad because he donated his mother's body to science or whatever, and they blew her up.
Everyone just assumes you're gonna just be cut up in doctor school. Nobody expects to be blown up. Or
they're gonna try bullets and sticking things into you and throwing you out of a building.
Holy fucking shit. Wow, I didn't even think about that.
They might burn you. They're just trying to find stuff. It's just science. So yeah, I try to imagine being one of those engineers. You know, they have to buckle them up.
Yeah, buckling in a cadaver.
And then crashing the car. But that's why we have seatbelts. So thanks, cadavers. Thank you for your service. From there, they started doing all these tests, and scientists have finally figured out, or they think, because we're never going to know, right, 100%. But they think that, if anything, it might have been a slab of ice. It does have that power. Something freezes, slides down, crushes, and you're dead. And obviously, ice can be sharp. It can tear through your tent. It can do that. It might not be all just in one piece. It might be several pieces just sliding down. There you go. You're dead. And yeah, it might have stabbed your eye. Plus, you know that one joke about, not a joke, but it's like a riddle where a man hangs himself in a locked room with only a puddle of water beneath him. How did that happen?
With the ice block or whatever.
Correct. The water was a block of ice that he stood up on, and he put the rope around his neck. And then the block of ice melted, and the water could no longer support himself, and he got hung.
I think there's another thing where...
The icicle death, too?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking. The icicle death. But what is that? That's not like a...
I don't know.
What is that? I don't know why we know what that is. What is that? Like,
I have no idea either. It's just one of those things.
A theory? Is it just something we saw on TV? But somebody getting stabbed with an icicle, and then there's no murder weapon, but there's a bunch of water around.
Technically, the water could evaporate, and there could be nothing around, just a hole. And that's it.
That's true.
You're dead.
Perfect murder.
Perfect. We figured it out. Anyway, so he suspects that it was a block of snow that it would have had to be incredibly stiff, according to this article. And it had to be moving at a certain speed. There's been people that are also talking about that are like this one guy, Freddie Wilkinson, who's a professional mountain climber and a guide, who says that, yeah, it's reasonable. Like, he's seen ice like that. It can result in blunt trauma. Wind, ice can do that. And yeah, you can lose your eyes. You can lose your tongue. Let's say you have your mouth open, you bite on it, there you go, it flies out, it's gone.
Oh, crazy.
It could also be like you get hit, so you can get cut. has a certain level of probability to it, which is what they say.
Interesting. I never even thought about ice for this. I was always like, the government dropped a bomb on them and are keeping it a secret, or there was a murderer out there, or all the other theories.
The other theory that's also one of those probable ones that are by scientists is that they got scared, obviously, from the avalanche or whatever, but they started running away from their tent. They're like, oh, panic. They're panicking. They might have torn it open, run out, and then they try to find shelter by the trees, which is where they found some of the bodies. And then, some of them were like, oh no, you're dying. Let's go back to our tent. And they try to survive. It might have been more like that, like a survival thing, like somebody's trying to help, but then they also die. And there is a couple of weird things, though, so it's not completely solved. One of them is, why were some of them with like their shirts off or like part of their pants missing? And
right.
Why? Like, why would they do that? And some of the scientists think that this might have been paradoxical undressing.
Explain that.
It says that sometimes people, they think when it's really cold, they think it's really hot, and they start taking off their clothes.
I think it's one of the stages of hypothermia. It's one of the final stages is you feel like you're hot, but you ain't.
Yep, and it happens in some of those places that are really cold. People have seen it in Sweden, for example, where it's just, and you just start taking off your clothes. By the way, this another part of the mystery here is that some of the bodies had traces of radioactivity.
See, that's my whole thing about the government doing a thingy. Like a surprise test of a weapon.
Yeah, but scientists looked into lanterns they were using, and they're like, thorium is present in camping lanterns.
Oh.
So it might have been.
All right, that sounds like a stretch, but okay.
Yeah, and the missing eyes, the missing tongue of some of the victims, according to National Geographic, which ruins this for us. It says may have simply been a result of scavenging animals pecking at the dead.
Look, it makes sense, but is it?
Maybe the Yeti might have been, but if he did, that's irresponsible because you're giving it away. That you're real.
Maybe that Yeti was really young and made a mistake.
Yeah, let that be your warning, guy. Don't do that again. You're supposed to be incognito.
Yeah, and you're supposed to be mysterious, scaring people away, making bodies disappear if you kill them. That's the responsible thing a grown-up Yeti does.
Come on now, seriously. Never liked Yetis. I always imagine that they scream a lot, but they say that Bigfoot scream a lot too.
Do they?
They're just like, like they're just in the woods going, stuff like that. Or actually, they sound more like bears. Like,
that would make more sense if they sounded like bears, because if they just were in the woods screaming like that screaming goat thing on the internet, but they're always in the woods screaming, I don't think they could be incognito.
I just imagine them just hanging out, screaming, just...
I think we'd figure it out that they existed pretty quickly if they did that.
What happened obviously was a huge tragedy. It sucks, right? You go, it's like a vacation. You go, you want to have fun, and then this happens. They were outdoors people. They knew what they were doing, so it's pretty sad. But the answer people were giving, which is, oh yeah, there's an avalanche, and that's it, left a lot of questions unanswered. Now, when they really look at it, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, snow can get into this, you can really get stiff and can kill you. People, when they think they're freezing or when they think hypothermia, they think they're actually really hot, take off their clothes. In panic, you run, and they just die from the cold. When I first read it, though, Michelle, when I first read this a long time ago, I don't know how old I was, but I thought it was really creepy. Oh, they were found without their eyes, and they were found with a crushed skull. And
I know, it is creepy.
And then you're like, you know what? Stuff like this can happen in the mountains.
You want it to be one big thing, but it sounds like it's a bunch of small things that led to their death. An ice, predators, hypothermia.
Governments trying to run tests on you, like we think that those are some of the theories, but no. Even though it is possible, I'm not going to cross that out.
Honestly, I think it is still possible that who knows? The Soviet Union was so sketchy anyway. Who knows what they did?
Yeah. And I'm spreading the word. Maybe I'm one of their agents now and spreading the word.
We don't know. Let's see if I can bring my Russian accent back. No? Okay. Moose and squirrel. Moose. Okay, there it is. I always have to do moose and squirrel. And then it's squirrel. Oop, nope. Did I lose it? Squirrel. Squirrel. Edwin is double agent for Russian and U.S. government. There we go. That sounds pretty Russian. That's pretty good. It takes a second. It's not natural.
Michelle, I have to go through an airport security and through...
They're going to flag you because we said something on a podcast. If they do, I'm sorry.
Oh, man. I like how National Geographic, they got this quote from Wilkinson that said, people love to invent implausible scenarios about death in the wilderness because we will never know 100% what happened. And that's true. We're not going to know. So therefore, it's the Yeti.
I'm firmly planted on it was the government. You're going Yeti. I'm going government.
I'm waiting for the next theories. Let's see what Newell say. And I want to know what a psychic has to say about this. Just curious.
Oh, yeah. Where's all the psychic theories? Where did they go?
Yeah, we need to get some psychics.
Aliens or Yeti? The psychics chiming in.
And that will be the definite answer. So that was the Dyatlov Pass story. So what do you got going on for next week, Michelle?
I don't know. I think it'll be a surprise.
Ah, dang it. All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.